What's up, everybody? Today is Wednesday, November 3rd, and welcome to my new Little Saturday Wednesday weekend preview. Named it Little Saturday because I guess that's what a lot of people in Europe call Wednesdays. But I'll be doing this every Wednesday, go over some of the top sports stories going on right now, and obviously looking at some lines NFL wise and NFL and college football wise going into the weekend. And since we don't really have time, me and Tom don't have time to really do anything of a preview kind of for the weekend for the NFL or college, figure I'll just sit down for 20 minutes and go over some lines that I like pretty quickly. But as always, put your question, comments, concerns, anything you want to say, any questions, anything in fantasy, whatever you want to ask, go ahead. If not, just sit back and listen. And all right, let's get started. So we're gonna start out with a did you know? Did you know that Jimmy Chitwood, the hero for the legendary basketball movie Hoosiers, has only 4 lines in the entire movie, which is, when you think about it, it's not surprising because he really doesn't talk. But he was the hero of the movie. He only has 4 lines. That actor's name is, I just had it. It is Maris Valanis, and he only had roles in 4 other movies. But obviously that was the one that at least I'll remember him for, because I don't know any of the other movies he's been in. So, all right. Last night, probably the biggest story coming out, the biggest story for me, at least, was the initial college football playoff rankings. These things, they don't necessarily they don't really surprise you in any way, but I thought this was very, very surprising and very, very telling initial college football playoff, top 6 at least. So coming in at number 1 is Georgia. I really don't think that you can't argue with that. Georgia's been the best team in the country by far. It's not even close. They're on a tier above everyone else right now, and that includes Alabama. Georgia's defense is so legendary and so historically good. I have a article coming out later in the week about how actually historically good they are. But even if you just watch them, you can see it. Nakobe Dean, probably the best linebacker in the country. The pick 6 he had this past Saturday versus Florida it's insane. He got beat. And then as a linebacker, going against what you would think would be a 4-4 running 40 running back, he caught right back up to him and picked the ball off, pick 6. So I don't really think there's any debate there. It's really Georgia, and Georgia alone right now. So it'll be interesting to see who they do play in the SEC championship, assuming nothing goes wrong. But I think we're all hoping for, and this will take me to number 2 in the initial rankings, Alabama, probably who Georgia will line up with and play against in the SEC championship, at least if things continue on the course that they are on. Bama at 2, I really don't like it, considering they're ahead of Michigan State. I would have put Michigan State at 2 instead of 3 because they are undefeated. And if you look at Bama's schedule this year, obviously their big win over Miami to begin the year. But other than that, we saw what Florida was against Georgia, but we had already seen what Florida was against Alabama. And if there are about 2 or 3 more minutes on the clock, that's funny about the last 2 Florida-Georgia games, because if you look at the last 2 minutes of the last 2 Florida Alabama games, you'll see that really, if there's 2 to 3 more minutes on the clock, Florida could have and should have won both of those games. But there we are. So I don't know. I think it's 2 is a little high for Alabama. I think it's, once again, the bias from the SEC. But unless it's a weird year or a weird recruiting year, Alabama is always going to have a top 5 talented team. I know Lucas Reed, one of my guys on Twitter, or my friends on Twitter, said it. And he's right. Bama is always going to have NFL talent, and they will continue to have NFL talent. So let's hop down to number 3, who I already mentioned, Michigan State. Huge win over Michigan over the weekend. I just have one quick thing to say about that. It seems like everyone's kind of giving credit to Michigan State, and they should. Michigan State came back down. They could have fooled them when they were down 30-14, but they didn't. They came back and they won. So good on them and good going forward. But it's really been shocking to me that no one has talked about how badly Jim Harbaugh was outcoached by Mel Tucker, because it was like a high school coach coaching against Bill Belichick. It's incredible. It's incredible that Jim Harbaugh hasn't been run out of Michigan by now. Michigan is pathetic for still like having him around and supporting him. I mean, just so many mistakes he made in that game, especially in that second half. They're up by 16 points. You've got, if you're the Michigan and you're the Michigan of the past and the historic program, one of the all-time winningest programs, you have to finish that game out. You have to close that out. And if you don't, you're going to get criticism. And I've just been shocked he hasn't been getting criticism. I mean, maybe the worst decision I've ever seen. Cade McNamara was having a very, very good game for his standards. And I mean, Michigan tore apart Michigan State's secondary, which I do think Ohio State will be able to take advantage of. But that's a different conversation for a different time. But so after Michigan State ties it up, they're about to go on basically the biggest offensive drive in probably the last 5 years for Michigan. And what does Jim Harbaugh do? He sticks his 18-year-old freshman in there who, they come in at times, JJ McCarthy. And they run a read option. I don't know if it was a read option or it was just his own. Fumbles a ball. Michigan State gets it. And from there, it was just all downhill for Michigan. It's just a joke that Jim Harbaugh is still at that university. It's a joke that he's making any more money. He's terrible. He is terrible. I could go through all his numbers. I think he's 1-10 on the road in true road games versus top 25 opponents. He's disgusting. He might be one of the worst hires in all of sports over the last decade. He has been terrible. Now, you also have to understand that I'm saying this coming from the perspective of a Michigan fan that thinks they're one of the top teams in the country and one of the most historic teams. Well, they are historically, but the fact that they haven't beat Ohio State I can't remember the last time they beat Ohio State. It's just embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing. They get beat every year. Mel Tucker did the same thing to them last year. Michigan is a joke of a football program right now. They're bad. They are a basketball school. Juwan Howard is taking that school over. They're a basketball school. They are embarrassing. I'd like to say I think it's going to be a good game when they play Ohio State in the Big House at the end of the season, but I just don't think so. I don't. Michigan's terrible. They'll have given up by then. Jim Harbaugh, if he is on the Michigan sidelines next year, I'm not going to say I'd be surprised, because they still love him, but whatever. Back to the playoff ranking. Sorry, had to go on a little tangent. If you guys watch any of my other shows, I like to go on those little tangents. I might have a whole little Saturday devoted to Dabo Sweeney at the end of this year, but like I said, that's time for it's a topic for another time. And then finishing fourth in the college football playoff, our initial ranking is Oregon. I like that. They have the big win over Ohio State in Columbus. And I thought the committee might throw, Oklahoma in there, might throw them a bone. But Oklahoma doesn't deserve a bone. They almost lost to Kansas. If Oklahoma goes to the playoff again this year, they're just going to get throttled by whoever they play. Oklahoma needs to learn how to play defense before they can get in these big games again. It's just embarrassing for them. But so I like that Oregon ahead of Oklahoma at 4. I don't think Oregon has the ability to continue to be a one-loss team. I think they're going to lose again. They don't have CJ Verdell anymore, who would probably be one of the in an odd Heisman year. 2 running backs would be leading in CJ Verdell and Kenneth Walker III, but he's not. But I do like Oregon there. And then you have 5th, you have Ohio State, which is I think Ohio State's a top 3 talented team in the country. It just depends on how they play. I think they'll make the playoff, and then you'll see what happens from there. Because I do think I would like to see a matchup of Ohio State's offense against Georgia's defense, just because I do think Georgia's defense would still shut down Ohio State's offense, and I think that would be incredible to watch. Because then you got to think about it. Kirby Smart's going to get some NFL. If his defense can shut down the spread offense of Ohio State, obviously it has a lot to do with the players, but it's got a lot to do with the scheme as well. So that would be interesting. So I like Ohio State at 5. To me, they're a top 4 team in the country. But I understand the initial rankings. You have to put them where you put them. Oregon beat them in Ohio State, and whether that was 5 weeks ago and Ohio State was a completely different team, it doesn't matter. They still lost. So Oregon's in there number 5. Ohio State or Oregon's in there 4. Ohio State number 5, and then in 6th place, which is the big shocking thing, is Cincinnati 6th, which I will say once again I do like the fact that they're ahead of Oklahoma. This is a very, very telling and should be a very, very worrying message to non-Power 5 teams such as Cincinnati. You can do all you want, but unless chaos happens, you're going to be on the outside looking in. I mean, if you look at Cincinnati this year, they have one of the biggest wins of the year from anybody, beating a talented Notre Dame team in South Bend pretty handily. They've also beaten Indiana, who is bad, but they are also a Big Ten team. Both their big wins were on the road. I mean, we've seen it the past 2 weeks. They haven't really blown these other teams out of the water, but we also don't hold Oklahoma to that standard when they're in the Big 12, when I don't know if the opponents that Oklahoma plays in the Big 12 are much better than the AAC opponents that Cincinnati plays week in and week out. Because I think without Texas and Oklahoma and Oklahoma State at times, obviously you have teams that come and go as good and bad teams, but I'm not so sure the Big 12 is any better than the AAC. So I just don't know what you do for Cincinnati. I think that they're going to get screwed. I think the way you look at this is the fact that I think a 2-loss Alabama gets in over undefeated Cincinnati team at this point. And I would think possibly a 2-loss Ohio State. But I don't know. But that's got to be worrying if you're Cincinnati, and if you're Luke Fickell. It's not fair to him or Cincinnati, but this might show him that, hey man, like as well as you've done here, and as a great of a coach as you are, and you have become here, it really it doesn't matter. You're never going to be able to have the opportunity to win a championship because you're at Cincinnati. So then I think that opens doors for him all the other jobs. I personally don't think he'll leave. I think he'll stay in the Midwest. It makes more sense to him. He's from the Midwest. He's a Midwestern guy. I mean, he would jump leaps and bounds to be back at Ohio State. I've heard rumors that he would even take another defensive coordinator job at Ohio State. There's no way he would do that. But you never know. Ryan Day is going to attract some NFL head coaching interest if he keeps winning these games. But we'll see. But yeah, it doesn't look good for Cincinnati. And shout out to my guy Matt. What a guy! I don't know what to tell you. It just sucks. It sucks, and it's not fair. The whole selling point on this playoff was that it wasn't the BCS and the Boise States and whatchamacallit, the other teams. They now have a chance. Well, they still have the very small percentage chance to get in. And if you're a college football fan, is that good or bad? It's good in the fact that you're going to see the elite teams playing the elite teams, which is what you want. But at the same time, you're not going to really have, someone on the outside to root for. So, yeah, I think this was as bad. If you're Cincinnati and you went into last night, this was probably your worst possible outcome. And that sucks. So, hopefully there is chaos that happens. It would not surprise me if Alabama loses another game in the SEC. I don't think Alabama is that good this year. I think Auburn could easily beat Alabama. I don't think they're anything special this year. And like I said, Oregon's going to lose again. Oklahoma's probably going to go to Oklahoma and lose to one. I think they have a gauntlet at the end of the year. They have Baylor, Oklahoma State, which was shaping up to be an awesome bedlam, which won't be. Well, I mean, it's always a great game, but it won't be the as like passionate as it could have been. So yeah, my rankings, if I were to do it, I would have Georgia 1, Michigan State 2, Cincinnati 3, Alabama 4, Ohio State 5, and I think Oregon 6. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, with those 6 teams there, I think in that group you have your 4 teams that will make the playoff. In mine of that 6, yeah, maybe. You're possibly looking at this was the year that we're going to have some change at the top and of college football. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And we really haven't. So I think you're going to see your blue bloods in again. And once again, that's possibly good for them, college football, because it brings in the money. All right, let's head over to the NFL to get to 2 stories that happened yesterday. And then we'll briefly talk Atlanta, and then I'll go into some previews for the weekend. Okay, so yesterday the Rams traded 2 second-day draft picks for edge rusher Von Miller. If you've listened to the Man to Man podcast or any of the shows that me and Tom have done, we are both advocates of the idea and the fact that what the Rams are doing is correct. They traded a 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey. The chances of you finding another Jalen Ramsey in the draft, maybe 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000. It's so much less likely than just going to getting the guy. And the Rams are once again ahead of the curve on everyone else. The Rams don't have they don't have a draft pick in the first 4 rounds. No, they have some compensatory ones. So at the end of the 3rd round, but other than that, they have no picks in the first 4 rounds this next draft. And I got to tell you, they don't care. They have Matthew Stafford now. They have an offense that is electric, and their defense, Aaron Donald playing inside and outside, and Von Miller coming from the edge. I mean, that's what I dreamed of as a Browns fan with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, that's going to be insane for the Rams. And once again, they are ahead of the curve. They did this right. Who cares about 2 second-day draft picks? Who cares? You're never going to – I mean, you're probably never going to find a guy with the capabilities that Von Miller has in 2 second-day picks. You're just not. You're not going to come away with that. You're very lucky if you are, but you're not going to come away with that. So what they did is absolutely correct, and it blows my mind that other NFL teams don't do this. With all the OBJ drama yesterday with the Browns and everything, they were saying, "Oh, we should trade." For a lot of people on Twitter and everywhere in the multiverse, whatever. They were all saying that we should trade OBJ or cut OBJ. Why? Why would we do that? He can be as miserable as he wants, but he's going to still have to keep going out there and running routes, and he's going to attract double teams. So he can be unhappy all he wants, and he can be a problem in the locker room. I really don't care. Because I'm not trading him for a draft pick or a 7th or a 6th round draft pick. I'm just not. And the fact that the Browns had to trade a first-round draft pick for Odell Beckham Jr., I get it. He was like 24, 25 at the time, but still, it is ridiculous. It is absolutely insane. Like I said, once again, the Rams are far and away above the rest of the NFL in the curve, because I think other teams are going to start doing this. Because look, the Rams were already a very, very good contender. I would say now they might be the favorite in the NFC, which is loaded this year. So that's definitely saying something. But me and Tom, I think we'll talk about it briefly definitely on Sunday morning and next week on Monday when we do the NFL recap. But if he's on Friday as well. So it's crazy that the Rams are once again doing things that are so smart, and that these other idiotic GMs and these teams look at and are like, oh, okay. I can understand it from the Broncos standpoint. They needed to dump salary. That's different. I understand that. But once again, the Rams were like, okay, we'll take on for the rest of the year. Yeah, we'll pay that guy, the mercenary, to win us a Super Bowl, because eventually it's going to work for the Rams. Eventually it is, if they keep doing these things. And like I said, once again, it's Sean McVay. I don't know why I always say Scott the Oklahoma City Bomber. It's not funny, and it's messed up, and I apologize. I don't know why I always mess those two up. But yeah, I mean, he's just ahead of the curve. He's ahead of the curve with the rest of the league. it's crazy. It's crazy, but good for the Rams. Good for the Rams. So and shout out to Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's on pace, I think, to break Calvin Johnson's regular season yardage point. And I believe right now he's either very close, if not over his career high in receiving yards for the season. So whatever the Rams are doing, more teams need to do what the Rams are doing. Okay, on to another NFL situation that I'm just briefly going to say maybe one or two things about it. A lot of you guys know me, maybe not personally, not as well, but I've had my struggles with alcohol in the past. I was a dumbass. I've been sober for almost 2 years now. It's good. I feel great. But whenever I see stories like this, and I know how I used to act, and I know how I used to be when I drank, and that's how I thank God every day something like this didn't happen to me. But I'll get into it. But it also goes to show you that it's just never worth it. Henry Ruggs was in the second-year receiver out of Alabama, Raiders player, was in an accident yesterday. I didn't read up on a ton of the details, so I'm just going to kind of dance around it and hope I got it right. But basically, he was in an accident. A woman tragically was killed during the accident, and he showed signs of impairment and will now be charged with some type of murder, some type of death in that crime. And then as soon as that news broke, then about 3 to 4 hours later, the Raiders cut him. I don't really know what the signs of impairment mean. Like I said, I have to look into this. I don't plan on talking about it for that very long, so I'm not going to go research it. But I don't, if he seemed impaired, they would have to breathalyze him. I don't know if they did or if it was drugs. I don't know. But this is just to go out there to tell anyone that's young and anyone that thinks they're invincible. I always say, you're not a cat. You don't have 9 lives. You might have 5. In the case of me, I've had 6 or 7. I've been lucky enough to have that. But it's just not worth it. It's never worth it. It's never worth it to drive like that. And it's terrible for Henry Ruggs. It's just a bad situation all around. But just learn from that, and hopefully he learns a lot from that. And it's not even him on the football field anymore. It's just not about that anymore. He needs to understand what he did and why he did it. And I think this whole process will play out, but that's pretty much all I have to say about it for right now. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it, guys. I promise. And then congratulations to the Atlanta Braves World Series championship. It was a very funny article on ESPN. The Braves end their 26-year World Series drought. So it's not like Atlanta has not won, maybe they haven't won a title since 26 years. Well, they should have said it that way then, but it's like, oh, we haven't won a World Series title in 25 years. The Indians really haven't won any. Stupid, very, very stupid, whatever it is, the link from ESPN. So thank you, ESPN. You stink. So like I said, great. Congratulations to the Braves. I saw a lot of things on Twitter about Mallory Pugh, the U.S. women's national team. I think she dates Dansby Swanson. I don't know why people were calling him Mr. Mallory Pugh. It's very confusing to me, and I just didn't have the time or care to look into it. So if somebody does want to tweet it at me, that would be good. But this just goes, and I'm just going to real quick in this as well. Baseball, what are you doing? Unless you were literally watching every pitch of that game yesterday, you wouldn't have known that there was even a World Series game going on. I don't know what to do about baseball, because I have no doubt in my mind over the next 10 years, it is going to slowly become worse and worse and worse. And it's going to come to a point where you're going to have these salary cut teams like the Indians have to do because they're a small market. Well, they don't have to. Don't get me started on the Dolans. Don't get me started on the Dolans. I'm not going to do that today. But I think you're going to end up having a lot of these small market teams that just cannot compete anymore. And I mean, you already saw a tendency throughout the league this year. You could have given me a suite at the Indians game and whoever that Guardians, soon to be Guardians game, I don't think I would have gone. I have absolutely no interest in baseball. It's incredibly boring. And if your team isn't very good in the race and things like that, you just have no incentive to watch Major League Baseball. The All-Star break was an absolute joke. They're how they schedule these games in the playoffs is so horribly wrong. Playing like a 1:00 game and a 4:00 game on a Wednesday when most people don't get out of work till 5. Like, it is crazy how bad they are doing this. It's insane. It is crazy how bad they are at public relations. And once again, this is another thing me and Tom always talk about. They are so bad. So once again, way to go baseball. Way to go Major League Baseball. I mean, just become less relevant and less relevant every single day. But yeah. All right. With that being said, let's hop into the weekend preview. Tonight, obviously, MACtion started last night. I usually like to stay away from MACtion. However, Kent State will be hosting Northern Illinois tonight. Kent State's minus 3.5. They're giving 3.5 points. They're also wearing special light blue jerseys that look like the Chargers uniforms, but if you've watched Kent at all this year, I think they just basically copied the Chargers color scheme and everything like that in their designs for their jerseys. But they are sweet jerseys. And I do like Kent minus 3.5 tonight. Kent's offense can get the job done. Their defense might be one of the worst in college football. But they score a lot of points. I believe they're in top 10 in total offense in the country. Here, I'm going to go look that up real quick. But yes, and also watch out for Kent's head coach, Sean Lewis, I believe his name is. He's going to be getting offers from not big time, but the next level from a MAC coach. He's going to be getting those job offers soon. He's done a great job at Kent State. It's been awesome. But yeah, I think he's gonna start getting some looks soon. Definitely. Well, Kent must have dropped a little bit in the rankings, or a lot. Maybe I'm just wrong. I don't know. Well, doesn't look like they're in the top 10 anymore. All right. Well, whatever. Like I said, Kent's offense is. Oh, they are. They're 28th, right behind. So they're in front of Central Michigan, Texas, Oregon, Michigan State. So yes, their offense is very, very good. So they are going to score points. Obviously, the game will be played somewhat around me. I'm looking outside right now. It's sunny right now, but it looks like storms are going to roll in later, which I always think benefits the home team. So sorry about the glare on the screen as well. That's the sun. Makes my beard look even more gray than it is, which is sad. But I like Kent minus 3.5 tonight. Yeah, that would be my play tonight. That will be my play tonight for the game. And then obviously, one day's here going out. Obviously, I'll give out Wednesday winners as well. Just going on because MACtion is finally back. So, but let's head over to the big games this weekend. And I'm going to start off right now and get this out as quickly as I can. If you're watching live, head over to your bookie or whoever you use, whatever site you use, or if it's Barstool or Bovada or whatever, get over there. Right now, number 9, Wake Forest, who's undefeated and is very, very good offensively, will travel to North Carolina on Saturday. And North Carolina has not looked good all year. They're very, very inconsistent. North Carolina is giving 2.5 points. They were giving 3 yesterday. So I'm telling you right now, this would probably be this is my lock of the entire year. Go put money on Wake Forest plus 2.5 on Saturday at North Carolina in noon. They are a legit top 10 team. They're a legit top 15 team. Their offense is incredible, which is crazy that we aren't talking about their offensive coordinator, Warren Ruggiero. Sorry, I did have to look that up. I'm not gonna lie, but they are putting up points and points and points. I don't know if any of you saw a couple weeks ago. They played Army. Final score 70-56. Both teams scored more than what was the total before the game. So They're very good. They're ninth in the country in total offense, averaging close to 500 yards a game. But on defense, they're both pretty damn bad. So this is going to be a high-scoring game. Absolutely. Wake Forest gives up around 420 yards a game. And I will say this. North Carolina, if they play well, they can beat Wake. They can and they will beat Wake if they're playing well. I just don't think they're going to play well enough to beat Wake. And not to mention something that's going to play a big factor in this game is turnovers. Wake Forest has a turnover ratio of +10, North Carolina -1. So that to me says Wake's going to get some, at least in like a weird play in the first half and maybe a ceiling play in the second half to lock up to win. This is their first test. They have a tough schedule coming up. They got to play Clemson as well. I believe they have to play Pitt as well. But this is their first test, and tonight or this weekend, I think they passed with flying colors. And not to mention some of their betting trends are just crazy. When they score over 30 points, they're 8-0 and 5-3 versus the spread in those games. And personally, I'm going to stay away from the total, but I would take the over, and I will be looking into the over throughout the day. And if I do, I will definitely tweet that out. All right, on to our next game. We have Ohio State at Nebraska. Ohio State's giving 14.5 points, and the over-under is 64.5. There are a couple things about this. Nebraska was basically a fumble away from beating Michigan in Nebraska 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I think Ohio State is a lot better than Michigan. However, this is a pretty tough spot. It's a look-ahead spot for Ohio State. This is kind of their one-off, and then I believe they play maybe Purdue next week or one of Michigan State next week, and then but their last two games are Michigan State and Michigan. So either way, they're going to be looking ahead towards those two games. So as of right now, I actually do like Nebraska plus 14.5. And I also like the over of 64.5 because I think if Nebraska is going to play with Ohio State, they're going to need to score. And Ohio State defense has looked a lot better this year since the opening weeks, but they're still not great. So right now, obviously, I just do this. These are the early. So like right now, I really like the 64.5, but I'll revisit this on Friday. And then the next game we have is Michigan State at Purdue. This is going to be a look ahead / letdown spot again for Michigan State. Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State they have this gauntlet coming up, and Penn State, I guess, too, have this gauntlet of teams coming up where they all are going to have to play each other. So Michigan State, they did win last weekend. It was a huge win. Kenneth Walker is clearly the best player in the country. I don't even think that's a concern at this point. But I also like Michigan State -3 here. I'm not going to touch the total on this game, but I do think that Purdue will stick with them for about a half. But Kenneth Walker and that offensive line are just too good, and that their run defense is one of the best in the Big Ten, and one of the better ones around. So I do think they take their own time on their own drives, but I think they play with a lot of I can't think the word. Why is the word evading me? They play with a lot of energy on defense. And like I said, this is a terrible spot for them, but I do think because the spread's only 3, I do think they come out on top, and I do think they cover. All right, now we head to the SEC. Obviously, sorry for talking about other teams, guys. But whatever. Auburn at Texas A&M. A&M is favored by 4.5 over under 49. I'm not. I don't. I've learned my lesson with Auburn and Texas A&M and like Ole Miss and just almost the second tier of the SEC teams. I'm not touching that total because I have no idea what's good. Like Bo Nix was incredible last week, but that's because he was at home. Now he's in the road at Kyle Field. I'm not touching the total. However, Auburn is a good football team. They are. They're a good football team. Harsin came in. I did not think he would. I thought he was 2 years and gone for sure from Auburn, especially coming from a place like Boise and then Idaho and everything out there. I thought it would be very tough for him to recruit and to get everything going. But no, he's put in a pretty easy game plan where he says, hey, Bo Nix, you're poised, you're a strong kid, you have athletic ability, and you're a good thrower of the ball. You just don't need to you listen to the man, and then me and Tom say this about Josh Allen, where he has the press the button play, where you have your controller in Madden and you just kind of freak out and press all the buttons. That's kind of the same thing as Bo Nix. But what Harsin's been able to do is just tell him, hey, man, these are the things you're good at, and this is what we're going to do. And it also doesn't hurt that he has Tank Bigsby next to him in the backfield, who is one of the best running backs in the country, no matter age or year. And then, like I said, with that being said, I love Auburn plus 4.5. I think they win this one. I think they win it rather easily. I just don't know what A&M's necessarily playing for anymore. They're not going to make the playoff. I highly doubt they're going to make the SEC championship. So I don't know. And then the last NCAA game before we quickly get into the NFL, LSU at Bama. I'm not going to look at the spread at all. Alabama's going to cover the spread. Alabama's going to cover the spread versus LSU for maybe the next 12 meetings, just because of what LSU did to Bama in 2019 when they won a national championship. Probably pissed Nick Saban off, but I'll revisit that on Friday. It's like I will with most of these, but like I said, I would definitely lock in Wake plus 2.5 right now, and I would lock in the over 64.5 at Ohio State at Nebraska. I really, really like those two. All right, now to the NFL. Obviously, going to start with the Browns. I don't really have much to say. OBJ drama's been overblown. I kind of explained why you're not going to trade him for nothing. I don't know. I'm just not very excited about the Browns. They're whatever. They may make the playoffs. They may not. It's every week something's wrong. Every week someone's hurt. Every week's like. Looking back, I just wish we never would have traded for Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, everyone out there keeps saying he's still a great receiver. He's a really good receiver. I honestly don't know. I don't know. So, but whatever. So the Browns will travel to Cincy this weekend. Remember the last time they traveled to Cincy, Baker scored the game or threw the game-winning touchdown to DPJ, 5 or 6 seconds left. So that was huge. Right now, since he is giving 2.5 and the over-under is 46.5, I may not be putting any action on this. And if I do, I will probably put Cincy minus 2.5 because I do think this will be a relatively close game. But I like Cincy minus 2.5 right now. And then the over-under totals, the Browns couldn't score last week, so I think they should be able to score this week. Nick Chubb is very, very good. He's not going to have another bad game. But, excuse me. But yeah, I if I was going to take one, I'd take Cincy minus 2.5. And then Titans at Rams. Rams are favored by 7.5. The over/under is 53.5. This is the easiest one for me. I'm locking it in right now. Already have locked it in. This is going over 53.5. The Titans have one of the best offenses around. Even without Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill can still get the job done. It will be interesting to see if Julio Jones plays this week alongside A.J. Brown, because then you do have two legit threats downfield. But either way, the Titans are going to find a way to score points, and so are the Rams. And the Titans' defense is horrible. So I do think this is going to go over. I think the Rams end up pulling away at the end. But I think this goes over maybe going into the fourth quarter. And then obviously, excuse me. Obviously Thursday night football. Jets at Colts. It's looking like my Wi-Fi is going a little slow, so I'm going to get through this one quick. I like Indiana. the Indianapolis minus 10.5 right now. That is very, very possible to change. But I don't think the Jets are very good. They finally have some tape on Mike White. So I just don't think there's any way that they may end up covering, and I may change this later, but I mean, if you were going to lock anything in with this game right now, I would lock in the Colts money line, which can't be going off for very good odds. So I don't know why you do that. But yeah, that's going to be it for my first little Saturday weekend preview. As always, this will be up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts later this afternoon, probably tonight for sure. And I forgot to mention this when I had this written down. So when the Rams traded for Jalen Ramsey to the Jaguars, they gave the Jaguars 2 first-round picks. Who do those 2 first-round picks become? Kalavan Chaisen, defensive end from LSU, non-factor last year. And then they got, obviously, this year's 25th pick, who turned out to be Urban Meyer's best friend. His best friend's the one in the bar with him, obviously. But his best friend, Travis Etienne, for absolutely no reason. It just goes to show you again, the Rams are once again way ahead of the curve of the rest of the NFL, and the fact that they've decided that they've correctly valued these draft picks, and they're like, yeah, no, Jalen Ramsey is better, and they are correct. So if you're going to take anything away from that, just start looking at your own NFL team and the team that you like, and just get mad or maybe not get mad. Just think about some trades you could work up for your team. So, all right. But like I said, we'll be back Friday with the Muff Punt podcast. Tom might be on with that as well. But that will also be me and the 2 Matts as well. And then Sunday we'll be here for our Fantasy Sunday. Thank you, anyone who listened. Like always, if you want to comment, concerns, throw them in the chat. But until then, I'll see you guys on Friday. Deuces. Let's rock.